very excited for my next guest, Kenneth Finnegan. It comes to us from Hudson Yards. I was just in New York City, and if you haven't seen it, in fact, the New York Times just did an incredible interactive article where you can spin the buildings around and go up inside them, the Hive building, all of these incredible structures. It's development on a scale that hasn't been seen in New York City in a very, very long time. Tell us a little bit about your experience at innovating at scale. And by the way, welcome.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Yeah, this has been a really exciting project to be involved in. Hudson Yards is the largest privately funded real estate development in U.S. history. It's currently about a $24 billion project. It is a true live, work, play environment where we built a new neighborhood in Manhattan, which is no easy feat.
Yeah.
It's very important to us that we integrate the experiences at Hudson Yards into the rest of New York City, because we like to think that we are becoming the new heart of New York City, right? And so it's interesting because from a technology perspective, we don't necessarily want to put tech forward at Hudson Yards, but we want to enable the experiences for all the customers at Hudson Yards, right? And so we have a wide variety of customers. We have the visitors from around the world, right, that come in off the High Line. They go to the Vessel, they go to our 1 million square foot retail facility. We want to use technology to enable that experience and make it pleasurable for them, even if they can't put their finger on quite what it was that made it such a great experience today, right? Then, of course, we have a number of residents that live there and are moving in right now. We also want to use technology to make their day-to-day lives more efficient and more enjoyable, and enable technology, or use technology to enable how they interact with their building. That's their home, right?
Right.
We have a large amount of commercial tenants there, right? Coach has moved their headquarters there, L'Oreal is there, SAP is there. Warner Media has now occupied 30 Hudson Yards. We're very excited to have all of those tenants. And again, if it's a place that you go to work every single day, we want to use technology to make that a special experience, right? The retail employees and the retail owners, we have a tremendous amount of ability to enable their experience as employees in a retail facility, and also allow them to pass that on to their customers in the form of a superior experience. And then we have an enormous number of people that operate Hudson Yards, right? Security staff, janitorial staff. We also want their experience to be very positive.
Sure.
We want them to enjoy coming to work every day. And so those are the things that we keep front and center when we deploy technology. We don't deploy technology just for technology's sake. We deploy it in a very mindful way to allow us to leverage against the experience for all of those people.
Tell me, Kenneth, what is some of the more enjoyable for you, some of the more innovative technology that you've gotten to employ in those contexts?
Wow.
Specifically, maybe with your janitorial staff. How does the Hudson Yard janitorial staff differ from a normal New York neighborhood or building?
So we just opened in March, right? Yeah. March 15th was our grand opening. Tremendous success. Yes. And attendance has exceeded our wildest expectations. So we're still in the process of enabling a lot of the operational technologies, but that's a great question. I'll give you an example of something we're working on, and that is, remotely tracking an employee, not as an invasion of privacy, but just as a way to track efficiencies.
Sure.
Who should we deploy at 11 o'clock at night in this particular area of a building because we've fallen behind, or we have not enough work here, and so let's redeploy those assets. Same thing with vehicle tracking. We're very mindful of, obviously, security at Hudson Yards. And so, we're deploying a number of operations to track vehicles, lock cargo down, make sure that vehicle takes the appropriate route to the appropriate loading dock, right? We want it to be a fun environment, but we want it to be a very secure and safe environment.
So does that mean that the cameras are tracking? Are they using license plate recognition? How do you make sure a vehicle does go to the right place?
To be transparent, license plate recognition is used, but only at the loading dock and vehicle screening facilities. We don't use it anywhere else on the campus. So
sure.
The public driving by, we're not tracking license plates or anything like that.
One of the things that, Hudson Yards is known for is a very luxury experience.
Right.
What are some of the ways you have employed technology to give people that enhanced experience of sort of a newer New York?
Yeah, it's another good question. for example, I mentioned our residents. When we were surveying the landscape of commercial, residential building apps, we weren't satisfied with any single solution
Sure.
that we had. So our digital team, working with a partner, developed what I think is just a beautiful residential app. This is how, again, you interact with your home.
Yeah.
You can actually use your mobile device to unlock your door. And of course, all of this has been vetted many, many times
Sure.
by outside security firms, of course. And in addition to that, we identify your preferences and then can push offers to you. I don't mean, a free coffee, but there's a wine tasting at 6 p.m. And we know that you attended the last one and you really enjoyed yourself. And allowing that application to also bridge the gap between the retailers, especially the food and beverage providers at Hudson Yards,
Sure.
which are top shelf, to those residents. That's one example of, for the residents. Another example is for 2 of the buildings, and we're eventually going to put this in all the buildings for the commercial tenants. Instead of using a Prox card or your phone or whatever to open a turnstile,
Yeah.
we have biometric hand wave capabilities where you can simply wave your hand over the turnstile and it'll let you in. So
Really?
you don't often forget your hand when you're coming to work to do your card. And more importantly, you can't give your hand to somebody else like you can with a Prox card.
Right.
It's a very seamless experience. It's completely secure. We don't store images, fingerprints, anything like that. Everything is broken down into a mathematical hash, and that is what is stored. So, and obviously that's done to alleviate any privacy concerns, right?
Yeah.
We're very, very mindful about that. So that's just another way of reducing, just one of those little things that reduces the friction that you encounter every single day.
Right, and makes you feel special, because how many buildings have we walked into where we can just wave a hand and gain access?
That's correct.
Not to get too nerdy, but that's an interesting thing, that it's the whole hand.
Yes.
Is that to make it differentiate from fingerprints? Is it about the shape, size of the hand? What is that?
Interestingly enough, it increases the efficiency the more surface area that you have, but you can, and this is a user settable parameter, you can use as little as 2 fingers actually, and it will actuate the turnstile.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And people are a little confused at first when they're presented with the option, but once they've used it a few times, they're off to the races.
Do you use it when you
absolutely.
And is it fun?
Yeah. Oh, it's great. And one of the other things, and this is germane to the operations staff, for example, is each of those systems is tied back to a central server. So for an operator who needs access to all the buildings, they program it once, and then they have access to whatever buildings they're authorized to enter. So it's a very efficient way of doing things.
What's been the most rewarding part of being part of this project?
Working with the incredible teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's what we have been able to pull off so far, and will continue to do, is nothing short of amazing, considering the resource constraints that naturally any business is going to have.
Right.
And opening on March 15th, officially for the first day, and seeing what was formerly the day before a massive construction zone turn into a beautiful park in New York City.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much both for your expertise, bringing something like this to life, also for sharing your insights with us. If there's one last question I can ask you, tips for the rest of us trying to innovate at scale, what would you say is one of the key things that wasn't obvious to you until you had taken on this project?
Wow, that's a good question, and there are a lot of things that weren't obvious to me, right?
Yeah.
But I think as a team early on, we recognized that it was very important to and this is no different than building a building, lay a solid foundation from a technology standpoint.
Yeah.
Build a platform that is both scalable and, just as importantly, is flexible, because you just never know next week, next month, next year what additional requirements are going to be, offered to you as opportunities.
So try to build
customers.
as openly as possible.
Correct.
Fantastic. Kenneth, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for being here at Realcomm.